Okay. Let's try this again. Apologies. I know everyone could hear everybody. Everyone on the team could hear each other. Everyone at home could hear the team. It was just me. I couldn't hear any of you. And I've rectified it now. I got rid of the microphone. I think that was causing the issue in the first place. So apologies for that, everybody. We're going to get back into it now. And let's get back to what we were talking about. And Pat, you're going to have to just tell everyone again your thoughts on this lad. Xamot.
Well, as strange as it is, my thoughts were that it was the same. So my same thoughts are that it was roughly what I was expecting. It's roughly, you know, what I would expect to see from Tomax and Xamot. Back in 2002, there was some question as to whether or not they were both going to have the scar, which was weird. So I'm really excited to see that we are getting a Xamot as we would expect him. And as I've said in the past, this kind of opens us up to some more creative other things. So maybe suits, maybe something entirely different. Now that they've done these, I would like to also see Tomax and Xamot in the near future in some other, completely other way.
Yeah.
I'm happy to get this.
I think you're right. It's that kind of like almost like it kind of just it's exactly as we kind of expected, I think, for the twins. Adam, what are your thoughts, mate?
I echo exactly what Pat said, and I think because this figure is pretty much exactly what we would have expected, this is where having the digital renders is fine, but it would have been nice to have been able to see if they did some kind of interesting packaging, or maybe if they came with like a mirror as an accessory, or just something that you weren't expecting that would have kind of given it a little extra wow factor. Like,
I know we've been kind of, I suppose we've been a bit spoiled in previous events, haven't we? Where we've seen like the packaging and they've shown off the art and they've discussed the artist on it, and they've, you know, the figure's been there in all its poses, and we've had like, you know, images like where they're on diorama shots. So yeah, like I feel like we're missing out a little bit just seeing this render, aren't we?
I mean, it's a gorgeous figure, like, and it's exactly what I would have expected, and obviously I can envision what it will look like in the tangible form, but I just feel like we needed a little something else to push this one over the edge.
Yeah, defo. What about you, Justin? You into this one?
I am, yeah. I mean, I've kind of said over the period of time the classified has sort of evolved that I like when they try some new things, and this is obviously not really a new approach, but I think for the Crimson Twins, to some degree, you got to really tap into that outlandish, you know, circus acrobat sort of look and style, which I think they've done, obviously. And you can see some little hints of newness, like he's got a holster on his hip, he's got a knife sheath. So they're clearly going to add some different little elements here and there. I agree with Pat. I think doing these two figures like this gives them an opportunity to do something different. You know, probably at some point, maybe we're going to get Crimson versions of these figures. I mean, it looks like they totally newly tooled his entire legs. So, you know, how else are they going to reuse that tooling rather than doing, you know, a Crimson version of these figures? I'd love to see them in business suits. I really want to see the classified line kind of take the leash off a little bit and do some really new and cool things. Like they were kind of on the verge with, you know, Firefly and Major Blood of really trying some enhancements to the vintage look that were really, really interesting. And I hate to say a step back because the figures are executed so well that it really isn't a step back. It's just my own personal preference, but for what they're doing, I think this figure looks absolutely fantastic. I hope he comes with a zip line or something.
That's a good point. I think we'll see these two, Xamot and Tomax. Well, let's have a look at Tomax as well while I faff about off screen. Sorry, I'm nearly there. You got to get used to this new fangled technology. So yeah, I think like I'm expecting these to come back again. Is what I'm saying. I'm expecting to do this as like almost like a two pack Shakur. Where we have like a deluxe set, and I know we've talked about this in the past about maybe having a ferret, and there's also that rumor that Duke's going to come with a tiger paw at some point in the Tiger Force target line. So there's that kind of thought of, oh, maybe we're going to get like these two with a ferret, because they're kind of synonymous with that, with the comic, with the cartoon. They're always on it in the cartoon. Anyway, but yeah, like I think we'll see these guys again at some point with more with like the mirror aesthetic and the, you know, the fancy deluxe box and all that kind of stuff. That's assumption.
One scene that I loved in the Marvel comic, I think it was like issue number 40 or somewhere around there, where they're riding the ferret and like Roadblock and Gung-Ho grab a big log and kind of sneak up and like knock him off with that's a really cool scene.
Sneak up with a gigantic log.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Yeah, okay, well that's the twins. Next up was this was really cool. So again, bear with me while I switch our share screen around. The next one was amazing in my opinion. And when I first saw it, I was watching on the TV like at an angle while we were kind of in this little studio, as it were, this live studio. And as it came up, I'm thinking, hang on, is he grey? Obviously it wasn't. It's Stalker and he is green-ish. But this is I thought this was a really, really cool reveal. And where Classified I think in this particular sense, I love the updates they've brought to him. Let's start on this time with Adam. What are your thoughts on Stalker?
Well, my initial thoughts are he looks like a silhouette because that background is so bright. But let me squint my old eyes to look at him. I think Stalker kind of gets into the territory that I was hoping that Xamot and Tomax would, where he feels very vintage inspired, but just altered enough to still feel fresh and new.
Yeah.
I really like the scarf. Like that seems like it's such a minor little thing, but it really made all the difference in the world.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I love that. I wonder if they're going to reuse that on anybody.
You wonder, please. You're going to have that scarf in every color of the rainbow in 3 years.
I'm thinking ambush. I'm thinking because they've got to cover that his giraffe arms, haven't they?
Yeah. But it's a really nice sculpt. I think the deco will look great when it's in person. Obviously, it got a little blown out here on probably covering a gray model, but yeah, I think he looks awesome.
It's very, very nice. What about you on this one, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Adam. This is kind of what I was talking about with the twins, where they're obviously leaning very heavily towards vintage, but doing some subtle updates to make them seem more modern and current. And yeah, simple thing like the addition of the scarf. I mean, I know you pop that scarf on, he's probably got the regular web gear underneath. He probably looks very much like the vintage version underneath, but the addition of that scarf, the textured material in his arms, and it's interesting that it's tough to tell with the renders, of course, but it doesn't look like he's reusing too many parts from like Beachhead or anybody like that. It looks pretty new. And there's a very cool, vintage feel, but also a sense of modernization to it. And I think Lenny said specifically, they obviously didn't show any accessories, but Lenny did mention that he's going to come with some vintage inspired accessories. I suspect we might see something similar to the Alley Viper, where he might come with a classic rifle that maybe doesn't look, doesn't fit in so well in the 21st century, but the vintage purists can kind of latch onto that, but also comes with a more modern rifle as well. So of course the beret being removable and all that, it's just a really awesome way to execute on this really great character.
They mentioned this is new, right? Pat, did you hear that they said this is a new body?
I think that they did say that.
They did say that? Okay.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think that what they're doing with the original lineup of Joes from '82 is a good move, because I think that those get a little bit stale after you've released the same body over and over again with a lot of people. That kind of happened in the 25th line, where they couldn't continue releasing them just carded because they would just get old after a while. And the fact that they went with using the Beachhead body to make Snake Eyes in roughly his 1982 style, and now we're having Stalker look not precisely like the 1982 Stalker, I think that they could actually get to everybody, and that's going to be a good thing.
Absolutely. I think this was the highlight for me. There's another highlight as well that will come up in a little while, but this for me was the one I was like, oh man, this is going to be a cool figure to have. I'm looking forward to seeing what accessories they have. I'm surprised they didn't show more of that as well. Like surely they have renders of what weapons and accessories they're going to come with too. And they have said as well, they did say that the details, the deco, other aspects may vary on the final figure. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing all of these figures physically and properly. So that was cool. Okay, well, next up, the next part of the show was very, I'm going to say they were kind of, what's the word? That's kind of like pussyfooting around, shall we say? What was effectively the retro card backs that were kind of brought to our attention via. Yeah, exactly. The retro card backs that were brought to our attention through listings, I think like a Panjiva listing or something like that. So we get that information that we're going to be getting a Lady J and a Baroness on a retro card back. Clearly now, this is what they're talking about. Baroness and Lady J here. Let me just again. So I forget that I'm actually having to do stuff while I talk about it. This is you're getting all of my worst traits. I cannot multitask. And we got the Baroness first. Now this is going to effectively be a retro card back. They couldn't show the packaging, but they could show the figure and what it's going to look like. Now, thoughts on this, Justin?
I like it. I mean, it's obviously vintage inspired. Looks like it's the same exact tooling as the Target exclusive we got already. That one wasn't especially, at least at first, wasn't all that easy to find. I think it got easier as time went on. But it was also, a $40 figure because it came with a motorcycle, where this is obviously just the figure. I really like how they did the variations in the material throughout the figure, how the boots and the torso covering are like gloss black, while a lot of the rest of it is flat black. And Lenny actually called that out during the stream, where he said that was specifically something they were going for. And even though I think this is another good example where Baroness doesn't look exactly like the original '84 Baroness looked, but looks close enough that I think it works really well with some subtle updates, yet she still has that really, that trademark look to her. So I think they did a really great job kind of reusing some of that tooling. And I think we all can kind of picture in our head what the packaging is going to look like, even though they couldn't show it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just going to be the Baroness card art from.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, we'll see, I guess. Off the top of my head, I can't really picture what they've done. Obviously, with the Star Wars one, they usually use film images, don't they? Like film pictures and stuff like that on the kind of Kenner retro stuff. When it comes to Marvel Legends, Adam, I'll ask you this question. They don't stick like religiously to the design all the time, do they? On the retro card back, it is kind of a little bit. They play about with it a bit, don't they?
It's pretty close. I mean, like in some cases, like with the Spider-Man cards, they have new art commissioned for the characters that very closely matches the look of the Toy Biz card art. So they try to get fairly close. But I mean, the dimensions of the card are not exactly the same. So there's always going to be a little fluctuation.
Yeah. Do you expect them to do a special art for these, or do you think they'll just go with? I mean, what are you expecting? Are you expecting the vintage art, like the kind of Garrido, Doug Hart kind of style, or are you expecting Earl Norham, or are you expecting the kind of like a custom piece, or like the classified they've already done?
I'd speculated on this quite a bit because my like mental image of these figures before we'd seen anything was basically just the Garrido art blown up huge and the figures redecoed to try and be more vintage inspired. And specifically with this one, I thought the one that came with the coil was already so close to the version 1 colors that what were you going to do? Put like gray or red accents in there? But if you did that, it doesn't match the card art. But it still doesn't exactly match because their glasses are different. The armor plating's a little different. So I don't know if they're going to alter that art like 25th did, or if it's just going to be like close enough but not exact like the retro 4-inch. So I guess it's just a wait and see. But I mean, I can't imagine that this will be anything other than the classic explosion back style cards.
Yeah, totally. And Pat, what are your thoughts on the Baroness here? I mean, are you happy to see her kind of get a single card release? Because obviously she's only really been released in the bike, hasn't she?
Yeah, and I'm hoping that this fills that need for a lot of people to get the Baroness if they did somehow miss it on the bike. I know that I still never saw the Baroness on the shelf, and I even ordered one too many, and then nobody locally wanted it. So rather than just selling it at a higher price, I took it back to Target so somebody could get it at a regular price. And the one that I took to Target, I never saw on the shelf. So I've never seen Baroness on the shelf, and hopefully there are still some people who will be grabbing these whenever they show up. I'm thinking this one's going to be popular. I'm always a big fan of the Baroness myself.
Yeah, this is sorry, I've just got I've got a dog barking in the background. You know,
she knows I'm on the call. I think.
Yeah, she could hear Justin's voice through my headphones.
She hates me.
Yeah, I kind of like. I didn't know what to expect, and I guess this is probably about as much that my head could really kind of like expect a Baroness to be, another single release. So yeah, I'm kind of happy that we're getting a single card release. I know a lot of people wanted a single, like either a single boxed classified figure of her, but this way I suppose we get that opportunity to get a single carded Baroness, which is kind of cool. So I think she'll probably fly off the shelves, honestly. Like Lady J, let's talk Lady J. As I remember that I have to do work in order to see Lady J. Again, this is going to be a recurring theme, I'm afraid, people. But yeah, Lady J, this was an interesting one because again, I think I was in the same situation with this, where I wasn't sure just how they were going to do her. You know, what they would do different, basically, like how they would kind of approach this figure. Let me just. Lady J's right here. I think they've given her, from what I can tell, she's got is it a darker cap? Is it a black cap?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's a different color cap, and she's a lighter green by the looks of things. So yeah. Sorry, I'm holding it next to the image, and no one can see Lady J. But there you go. There's Lady J. So all right, Justin, thoughts on Lady J?
Yeah, I was like you. I wasn't sure exactly what they were going to do to make her more retro. You know, since we saw those listings, I was kind of trying to work out in my head how they could change Lady J, because the classified version already was pretty closely decoed like the classic Lady J, but they obviously brightened up the green a little bit, made it more vibrant like the classic 85 version is. Lenny said something about giving her 80s style makeup to kind of alter the face look a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I see the changes they made. Whether those changes make it worthy of an additional purchase, I'm not sure or not. I mean, I have a local Target now that has three classified Lady J's still on shelves. So at least I did last time I checked, which was a while ago. But so yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the demand will be. I think it will be very cool to see her on the classic style retro card back. But yeah, I mean, it's a cool looking figure, and it does align pretty closely with the 85 style. I'll be interested to see accessory wise what they do. Like I said, they're going to have to
minimize some of that for these, aren't they? I think.
Yeah, depending on what the price point, I guess, and yeah, what they can fit in that bubble. But I mean, the classified version already had some pretty similar vintage style accessories with the javelin gun and stuff. So we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, she's a great looking figure. Again, I'm not sure I'll end up buying her or not because I'm really happy with the version we have. But
of course you'll win. Of course, we're all like kidding ourselves.
I'll order her 4 times from 4 different retail outlets probably, and forget to cancel them all, and end up with like 6 of her.
Oh, so. This is a good point from 46 Zone. Let's actually a few people have mentioned this, but I'm going to show 46 Zone because it came up first.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
I wonder if they will give LJ a VCR tape camera. That would be very, very cool. And I suppose you could like reuse that in the future. Yeah. Of course they will. But if they were to do it.
I know with the classified version, that little thing that flips up from her backpack was kind of seen as that replacement, that modern technology replacement of the old style camera. But it would be cool just from a vintage, point of view to bring some of that old school stuff back.
Big one, like really stupidly massive, like with a draped cloth over the back and a tripod and a big flash you have to hold. One of those jobs. That'd be great. Wouldn't it? I'm kidding. That's a little bit too old. Pat, have I spoken to you about this yet? Have you talked about Lady J yet?
No. I think that
okay, moving on. Kidding.
We haven't mentioned the change in the logo on her hat too.
Oh yeah.
Oh right. Yeah. Good point. I was saving that for you, Pat. That's
nice. Thank you. Saving something for me. I appreciate that. I think that the thing that we may also be forgetting is that the classic inspired cards are probably going to inspire more people to buy one to keep packaged as well as to have one loose. So the loose Lady J everybody already has probably can be supplemented by one that's in the package. So yeah, I also have Lady J sitting on the pegs at Target. So that does make me wonder how fast this one's going to sell. But I think that the changes are going to sell it to quite a lot of people, and the packaging will as well.
Yeah, I think it's that's what they're banking on, I guess, isn't it? That kind of like the card itself being like worth kind of keeping. I think like that's another thing. Like we'll I'm sure we'll see the packaging soon, and I'm sure that will sell it for a lot of us as well. Like if we see it on shelves, we'll be like, oh, cool. So that's some because obviously it's going to be a lot bigger. That's something I haven't really taken into consideration. These things are massive on card, aren't they? Adam, did you speak about Lady J?
No. So I agree with you guys that wave with Flint, Jay, and Cobra Commander really oversaturated. So that's a little bit of an obstacle. But personally, I find the look of this figure much more appealing than the other one. I just think that shade of green pops more. And I've talked about this a lot, that the classified line up until fairly recently was all very kind of dark and drab. Like there's a lot of gray, green, black. So to have anything that's a little more on that like highly saturated color end, like Alley Viper or something that's more like a lime green here, I think really will look nice with the other figures. The only thing that I'm kind of a little weird about on the retro cards is, are they going to have numbering now, or is that gone? Because I gotta say, my collector OCD feeds into that numbering gimmick like you would not believe. Like I'm like, I have to have 34, even though if I don't have whatever, like if there's a gap in the numbering. So if these don't have that, it's already the fact that they're not in the box format kind of breaks that a little, but I think the numbering, just for the organizational standpoint and everything, really does. So I hope they retain it.
I'm pretty sure you won't see numbers on these, mate. I'm pretty
sure
sure this is
myself.
Yeah, so there you go. You can just leave them. You can leave them up there.
They weren't going to until Adam just mentioned that, but now they will put numbers on.
Yeah.
Them, so everybody thank Adam for.
Thanks, Adam. They're going to brand them on the front bubble.
I'm just going to put it right on her forehead or something.
Yeah.
Something that I just wanted Sergeant Slaughterhouse comment that we've had on the screen for a bit there, waiting on the canary yellow repaint. And honestly, I'd be down for that.
That'd be pretty cool, yeah.
I'm the kind of jerk that would love that homage, and I would love that in Classified. But anyway, I kind of feel that's probably more, that's more in the Super 7 wheelhouse. And we'll talk about that on the weekly, won't we, Pat? Tomorrow.
Yes. Later on today for us, tomorrow for
Well, yeah, we'll talk about it in a few minutes, and okay, right. So we had Lady J, we had the Baroness. Now we switched over then. Again, I'm doing that thing where I'm like, talking about it, not doing anything about what I'm talking about, which I should be doing. We moved on then to ORing, and this was an interesting one because I know if you had been. Sorry, go on, Justin.
We missed a couple retro classified.
No, we're doing it in order. We're doing it.
Okay, we're doing it in the actual order they did it.
So don't worry, I'll get to those in a second. But first up, we switched over to ORing, and we got these. Now, if you'd have been a patron of our show, you'd have known a lot of this information already, which is cool if you're an SAS or a Red Shadow Army patron. This one was a little bit of a confusing one. But we're getting a trooper and an officer. So this is this is kind of like an obvious 2-pack, isn't it? I suppose to do, but then also pretty cool army builder, one that I can see multiples being sold of these. Adam, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm very excited to have ORing back, but this is not really the ORing that's got me buzzing yet. I really I want the Wayne Ruthels, I want the deck crews, or if you're going to do it, at least change it up, enough that it's pretty visible. And I like that the ones that came with the Sky Striker sort of had a little bit more of an animated look.
Yeah.
These feel very close to the 82, 83 figures for me, so it's almost hard to really review them in a conventional sense, because, do I like them? Yes, but have I also owned them for the last 30-something years? Yes, so,
Well, I suppose, this is, you can kind of look at it as supplementing your current army as well, can't you? Like you can just, army build even more now with more accessible kind of figures, I guess. Does that appeal to you at all, Pat?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like I really do a lot of army building or setting up my figures anymore. That's not really where my collection goal is. I think that it's nice because a lot of those 82, 83 figures are actually slightly yellowed. The Cobras in particular kind of, I don't want to say they yellow nicely, but they're not they're not as obvious or as annoying as some of the other figures whenever they yellow. So a lot of the ones that are out there actually are not that great, but are passable. And here we'll get some nice fresh ones that hopefully won't yellow very soon. I know that some of my 2000s era figures are in rougher shape than my 1982 figures. So hopefully these ones last for quite some time. That's one of the things I'm hoping for. But yeah, I mean, we're getting some stuff that is a bit of a reissue. And then hopefully I'm looking more forward to the same stuff that Adam was talking about, some newness. But how are we going to do retro O-ring without these two? These two definitely were something that needed to be in there. So I'm good with it.
Well, we're in the core character hump, is what I've called it, and no one really else has taken that on board. But I'm going to try. This is like my fetch. I'm trying to make it happen. Justin, I mean, are you into this O-ring revival? Is this something you're interested in?
I am into the O-ring revival, but I'm like Adam, where I kind of want something a little bit new and different. I mean, I really love that they're doing this, and I think this will appeal to a lot of people, especially collectors that might not still have access to their childhood collection, who want to revisit some of those, those old memories. But I mean, personally, taking away, the actual quality of the plastic or anything, if I was given a choice between, like, say, I don't know if anybody here remembers the Cobra Trooper 6-pack that was sold on Toys R Us as an exclusive, back in kind of the Spy Troops Valor versus Venom days. That was an O-ring style Cobra Trooper that had some new parts and some different, whether the parts were better or not is debatable. But that's the sort of thing I'd like to see, is where it's inspired by vintage, but there's some new sculpting, some new tooling, something new and different that separates it from just being a clone of the 82, 83 stuff that most of us have had for 4 decades. I mean, so that's where I'm kind of conflicted. But I really like that they are approaching the O-ring stuff and showing it some respect, and and doing it in this way. I think this stuff like this will complement some of the Super 7 stuff nicely. People who complain about the Super 7 stuff having, the retro stuff having less articulation than they did back in the 80s. They can get some of this stuff to kind of feel retro, even though it's got newer construction. The picky part of me says that, yes, while I'm glad they're selling, a 2-pack of troopers, personally, I would rather have, less officers than troopers. So it almost would have made sense to have a 3-pack, one officer and 2 troopers. So for every officer you bought, you got a couple of troopers, rather than having a 1-to-1 ratio. That's a pretty minor complaint. It's better than if it was like Destro or Storm.
You just want want a 50-pack with 1 officer, don't you? That's what you want.
I don't know if I'm going to buy these anyway. I mean, I love that they're revisiting the O-ring, but yeah, like Adam said, I've had figures like this for so long. I feel like I need something a little bit new and different. I eagerly backed the HasLab Sky Striker, and I'm excited to get some of those new figures. But I'm not so excited to get figures, new versions of figures I've had for so long.
Yeah, I would. I kind of have to agree with that. And obviously, the next set is pretty much, we were in the same wheelhouse again, aren't we? We're in that kind of core character scenario, and it is Duke and Cobra Commander eventually on screen. Now. So again, I'm just putting this up here because this is obviously what was revealed. We don't have to go into too much detail with this, guys, but I mean, we're in a similar kind of situation here, aren't we, with Cobra Commander and Duke, that we are with the Cobra Trooper and the Cobra Officer? Oh no. Okay, Adam, go on then. What are you going to say?
No, we're in a totally dissimilar situation. These feel classic inspired, but different enough for me to actually be excited about them.
Okay, good. Well, go for it.
I mean, Lenny said my favorite word, the movie. He might have just been doing that to sell me a 2-pack. I don't know, but because he looked.
I think he meant Rise of Cobra.
Yeah.
They're gonna do Rise of Cobra O-ring figures. That would be spectacular.
I'd be into that maybe, but yeah, I think that these are sort of the customs of our dreams. Like the figure. Obviously, final results may vary. We'll see how these translate, or if the renders just look more saturated, but. If the colors stay very true to what we're seeing here, they feel just different enough to me. And little things like the white streak on the top of Commander's helmet, the gray belt, this is all very Sunbow inspired stuff. And I think if rather than give us any straight up vintage re-release, if all the re-releases were Sunbow colored, I think that would make all the difference in the world to somebody like me, and probably the rest of you who have had all this stuff for decades.
Pat, what are your thoughts then, buddy, on these two?
Same thing. This is one of the things that I've really been hoping to see out of an O-ring line. I think Cobra Commander could maybe use his cape from the movie. That would be really cool. But the stripe that's on the top of his head actually dates back well before the cartoon, because Where the cartoon got that was the concept sketch for Cobra Commander actually had that on the top of the helmet. So it's nice to see that on the original 82-83 style Cobra Commander, to finally get that. And his gloves are painted differently. They go, up on those rings that I think that at one point those were intended to be some kind of Cobra ranking system. And Duke also looks, in some ways, almost looks a little more traditional for the fact that he looks like the Duke that everyone was staring at. But not, they didn't take it too far, because I think sometimes with comic book pack things or cartoon pack things, colors just get a little bit too bright and aren't quite what was intended to be conveyed by the cartoon. And these really hit the mark very nicely, and I'm excited for these. Like Adam said, just give us more and more of this stuff that is Sunbow inspired. I'm actually more of a comic book fan than a Sunbow fan myself. But if what he said, where every figure was more inspired by Sunbow, I would be all over that. I would love it.
I thought you were going to say I'm actually a bit of a scientist myself. No, that's actually good info there, Pat, as always. Thank you very much for all of that. That's great. Justin, I mean, any thoughts on these? We don't have to talk about them if you don't want to, but you can.
No, I do kind of want to echo what Adam and Pat said, in that
okay, then moving on.
It's a double-edged sword, because like you said, it's the core character conundrum where we've got another Duke and another Cobra Commander, but unlike the Trooper and Officer 2-pack, they have monkeyed with the colors a little bit, made them a little bit brighter, more vibrant. The small touches, like the little white circle around his belt buckle and kind of the lighter color on his belt, and the stripe on Cobra Commander's head, all very Sunbow inspired. Duke looks a little bit brighter and more vibrant, more animated, you might say. So yeah, I like the direction they're going with these two figures, unlike what we saw with the Trooper and the Officer. So yeah, I actually kind of like this, and I think I'd be more likely to purchase this 2-pack than I would the Trooper and Officer 2-pack. And I like the fact that Lenny kind of made mention of jetpacks and stuff. I don't know if any of that will come included in this 2-pack or not, but yeah, it's got the opportunity to have some interesting stuff like that, which is, I'll be curious to see kind of how they do the backpack system. I don't know if they showed off any of that with the HasLab, whether it's going to be the larger hole that they had back in the vintage days and the screw and everything like they used to, or if they'll do kind of the thinner hole and backpack system that they do now. It'd be interesting to see.
I'm sure they're going to go.
The backs.
Did they?
The HasLab project.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a turnaround of the figure, and it looked like the vintage style.
Good.
Yeah,
right.
I would have guessed it would have been the vintage style, honestly. Okay, well, that's Cobra Commander and Duke. I'm still waiting for me. I'm talking about the movie, Adam. I want a Duke with a big red splotch on his chest. That's what I want. And like that bandage under his shirt that somehow got on there. That's what I want.
You might have to apply that deco yourself.
Oh yeah, no doubt. What with my my skills in that department, right? Next up, then, and we switch back. Like I thought we were done at this point. I'm like thinking, oh, that was quick. That was like a 7-minute stream, and no, we had more. And they decided to bust out a few more. This is for Justin. A few more retro carded figures. So obviously this is Destro. Now we've known about this as a team. We've known that this Destro was coming on a card, but we were all kind of scratching our heads as to like, what are they going to do? Like, what are they going to do deco-wise? And this is it. This is what they've done deco-wise. Thoughts, guys? I mean, is it different enough to get you to pick him up on card, Pat?
Well, it's not hard to sell me G.I. Joes.
I don't know why I asked that. I don't know. You know what I mean.
So yeah, I'll probably pick it up, look at it, debate for a second, and try to convince myself that I'm not going to buy every single one of these, and then inevitably buy it anyway. That's what's probably going to happen. But looking at this makes me wonder, because they said that they put those eyebrows on the outside of this Destro. I have to. My mind's on the O-ring stuff. Really, that's where my interest is, and I have to wonder how they would approach putting eyebrows on a vintage Destro figure. I think that would be much more of a challenge to get to look good than this more form-fitting Destro head. I love the original Destro. I don't know that it needs eyebrows.
Sorry, I just saw Adam's background like slowly.
That's a little Easter egg for the viewer. I hung this up in honor of O-ring, but with tape, I didn't really hang it up.
That's amazing. Amazing. No, I agree with that, Pat. Justin, what are your thoughts on this Destro?
He's fine. You know, I think they did a really good job on the first release of Destro, kind of, you know, referencing referencing the vintage style, but making him more modern. I'm kind of in the same boat as I was with Lady J, where nothing about this version really speaks to me as being drastically different and in need of an additional purchase. I mean, the eyebrows are a neat touch. You know, are they a vital reason to purchase another $20 figure? I don't know. I do like some of the color contrast. His gloves and wrist things seem to be a little bit brighter and in stronger contrast than they are on the classified figure. I don't know if that's true or not for sure. But I actually found that on the original classified version, I actually liked the differing shades of color, like the very, very different, or not very different, but kind of subtly different tones
brought out the textures, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And this kind of flat black kind of wipes some of that texturing out in a way. So yeah,
also,
he's okay, but
the collar's all red as well. I just noticed.
Yeah,
I'm just kind of looking at mine behind me and kind of doing like the worst comparison ever. But yeah, there's definitely a deco change there. So it's probably going to be one of those things where we're like, all right, then let's get them. Yeah, and again, like I think a lot of this is going to kind of hinge on what those card backs look like.
Right.
But I know for a fact that the next one that I'm going to bring up now is 100% like I'm all in for this bad boy. This is something that the community's kind of been like calling out for a while now. I would say it's something that a lot of people have expected to happen, and it never really did. And that's this lad, Gung-Ho. Now, not only is it a deco change, which when I first saw it, I thought, oh yeah, cool. I was kind of expecting that with this Gung-Ho figure, the kind of tealy greeny color with the camo. But then Justin was like, I don't think they're the same parts. And I looked and I'm like, oh yeah, that is a new vest. It is a new cover. It is all sorts of new stuff going on here. A new tattoo, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like there's a lot of changes here, and I think he looks phenomenal. Justin, take it away, because obviously we were talking about this earlier, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean, they really went all out. You know, while most of the retro style figures are just kind of repaints, they gave Gung-Ho a lot of new parts to make him look more retro. The vest is obviously a pretty big change. The tattoo on his chest, I did notice somebody in the chat asking about why they changed his tattoo. The U.S. Marines are kind of changing their copyright rules and regulations a little bit, and you can't translate the exact replica of the U.S. Marines logo on a toy without paying some kind of licensing fees, I don't believe. So what they did is, the first release of Gung-Ho, they had a different kind of darker tattoo, and then they sort of made this one look a little bit more vintage. There was some complaining about the deco style of the original tattoo on the classified figure, so they tried to mirror the Marine style a little bit more with this updated one. It's a little funky because, obviously if you already had a classified Gung-Ho, did he get his old tattoo removed and a new one put on? I mean, really, it doesn't matter a whole lot. But there's also people who complained about how his hat wasn't an actual Marine hat. It was an Army hat. So they clearly took that advice to heart and gave him an actual Marine hat. It's
a different head sculpt, guys.
Is it a different head sculpt? Yeah.
Did Lenny say anything about? Because I was not listening because obviously I had to take pictures and stuff. But did he say anything about having a bald head?
I don't recall. If he mentioned that. One thing that's interesting, I mean, looking at and this is just a render, so it's tough to tell, but that hat fits very closely to his head. Like I'm almost struggling to see, like, is there a bald head under there? I don't think they've sculpted the hat to his head. I don't think they would do that, but it might just be the render that makes it look like it's tough for me to visualize the curve of his skull underneath that hat. But I would imagine it's either a bald head or maybe they kept that mohawk. I don't know. It's close enough to bald.
Interesting.
But yeah, the figure, it really, with those subtle accessory changes and the deco change, really makes a stark difference. And, I was one of the ones that really liked the classified version, and I still do. I think they did a great job kind of homaging the vintage version, but making them darker in color, more jungle deco. It really, to me, called back to a period in the G.I. Joe comic. I think it was issue number 39, where he's on a jungle mission with Ripcord and Stalker, and he's got his outfit, but he's in darker green, kind of olive drab green, and I really like that look. So personally, I love the original classified Gung-Ho, but I can appreciate people with who want to see the vintage version redone in a 6-inch scale. So now they get their wish.
Pat, what are your thoughts on Gung Ho? You like him?
I do. I think that the other classified Gung Ho is one of those ones that strayed away from the original design a lot, and there's definitely a demand for those original designs. So why not do both? That's just my general approach with all of these. And the fact that they actually went to the extent to change the head sculpt, as you were pointing out, and they looks like they've dropped like the armor on his right arm and changed up some of the gear quite a bit. I mean, it's a new vest. Lenny mentioned that. And who knows what we'll see from the accessories with all these figures. That's another thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
But this is a clear winner in my mind, giving people exactly what they've wanted. And it's not like the other Gung Ho is going to suffer for it. Those are already cleared from shelves.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see like a real vintage-inspired grenade launcher that comes with them too, with all the other additional accessories they gave them. That seems like almost a no-brainer.
Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts, Adam? Do you like this one?
Love it. I was actually really surprised by this because if you remember, the back of the packaging and the website had altered the colors of the classified Gung Ho, and so I thought for sure that's what we'd be getting.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So to see this, not only in the vintage colors, but with so much new tooling, was a real surprise. And for as much as I harp on how I don't just want a bunch of vintage rehash, some of them would be so appealing. Like, even as a kid, the colors of this figure just really always popped for me. So I think it's a very welcome addition. And like Pat said, why not do both? If we didn't already have an update, maybe I wouldn't feel that way. But, kind of like Roadblock, too. If you've got something that's really new and futuristic, then there's no harm in going back and doing a version 1 homage.
Yeah, and some of the folks in chat are mentioning that they think the tattoo is actually the same tattoo as the original classified Gung Ho, just in blue instead of black, and that might be the case. I mean, it's kind of tough to tell from the render, but
it's not. Yeah, I'm happy to just default to that at the moment until we know more information. But yeah, that's really cool. Have we lost Adam? Are you still there, buddy? Okay.
No,
there he is.
It was you just fixing your background again.
I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of seeing that twice. You get one blooper reel take.
I wish we'd been in this aspect ratio when that happened.
You can blow it up.
Okay, so the final reveal, and this one was a bit like. So this one again has been known to us for a while. It's gone from multi-pack, where we thought it was a 2-pack of Vipers, to a 3-pack of Vipers, to a 2-pack of Vipers with an officer, and now we find out that it is a 2-pack. It is a 3-pack with 2 Vipers and an officer, but the officer is not the Cobra officer; it is a Viper officer. I was hoping I'd time that perfectly. I have not timed it perfectly, but there you go. So this is what we get. We get 2 Vipers in this set, 2 of the kind of, I say standard Vipers, but the ones we have had already, but with slightly redecoed. Hang on. It's hard to tell because almost just behind there, packed away. And then obviously we've got this really cool officer, Viper officer, in the red and the grey with the gold mask, which we've seen in the modern 4-inch line, obviously. And again, it's one that we kind of said this is something they could probably do. One thing I will say here, which I think is amazing, is we've had a Cobra Island Viper, we've had a Python Viper shown off as well and coming out very soon. This Viper now, this kind of standard Viper in the set, which I have a feeling will have some changes to it. And so there's 4 different Vipers already. That's crazy. 4 different Vipers, and we haven't had the Sonic Fighters. How does that upset you, Adam?
Greatly. I do really like the what are we calling here, officer here, and the center one. That's based on the 2014 50th one, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a really cool deco that translates well to this. I mean, this is a great figure. I think everyone likes it. And, it was very difficult to find at retail. So getting an opportunity to kind of flesh out your ranks a little bit's never a bad thing. But man, that Sonic Fighter deco.
I know. When are we going to get the Sonic Fighters? Man, that's what I want to see. I want to see that class. I want to see them really. That'll be a Target exclusive sub team. I hope, and they have to have sound effect backpacks, otherwise I'm out.
Yeah, you know what the gimmick is now? Now your cell phone slides into the figure's back as a backpack.
Oh my god, that is genius!
And your flashlight flickers to simulate the sound.
And on the screen, it would like literally whatever figure you'd slot it into, their backpack would appear on the screen.
Yeah.
And you've got to press the buttons. Oh my goodness! Why are we not funding this? Hasbro, come on.
They've got my number.
There you go. Pat, what are your thoughts on this as a set? Are you happy to see them like really go to town on these Vipers?
Yeah, there definitely should be a lot of Vipers available for people, and Cobra Troopers. I'm always a little more partial to the 82 Cobra Trooper than I am to the Viper. I know I may be crazy, but that's what I like with my Cobra stuff. And it looks like they've changed some of the black on the vest and other parts of the figure to a gray or maybe a charcoal. I guess it depends on when we actually see the final figure.
Yeah.
But you know, some of those minor changes. I don't think that I would have wanted them to have made major changes to the troopers in this, to have them be too different. The idea here is to be able to sort of army build and to get a lot of the standard looking trooper that may be represented in other media and other things. So it'll be nice to have these, and I like the choice of officer is good. There have been so many repaints of that original Viper across like the early 2000s and in 98. I even think that I think 2014 officer is even a slight nod maybe to the 98 gray one. It has a red vest instead, but it definitely seemed like that's what they were going with going with the gray.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and Justin, I suppose, yeah, you're next, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'm kind of same as what Pat said. Is I think, you know, in 98 they released a 3-pack that had, you know, Vipers like this deco. They called them Cobra Troopers and Cobra Officers instead of Cobra Vipers back then, because that 97, 98 line was totally wacky. But I do think they kind of homaged that, and I think the 50th did homage that as well, and then this kind of homaged the 50th, because I know that original 98 didn't have the red vest and stuff, where the 50th anniversary one did. But yeah, I mean, it's cool that they're kind of dipping into this. I actually really love that dark blue Cobra Viper deco that they're using for this. I almost like it. I don't want to say more than the standard deco, because I really like the red breakouts that don't seem to be quite so evident here. But kind of the darker, deeper blue. I think this is really an interesting way to approach this, and they absolutely are. They're kind of flooding the market a little bit with Cobra Vipers, which is good. I mean, they're Cobra Troopers. Somebody who couldn't get that Cobra Island Viper can get this 3-pack and get, you know, pretty close iterations of that blue Cobra Viper. You know, it's not going to be exact, obviously, with the 2 blue ones here, but pretty darn close. So yeah, I think they're doing a really great job kind of getting these army builders out to market for people who might have missed out on some of the Target exclusives, even though they did become at least a little bit more available for a period of time. So yeah, I think this is great.
I love that we've got this like hierarchy of Vipers already.
Well, I hope they do some kind of story. I mean, that's what I'd kind of like to see, that I feel like is missing sometimes without a file card or without some corresponding comics. Is like, what, you know, yeah, we have a Cobra Viper officer here, but what's the deal with the other 2 Cobra Vipers in the package? Like, what makes them different from the ones that were in the Hunt for Cobra Island set, you know, and where does Python Patrol fit in and all this stuff? I think it would be really cool if they could weave some sort of narrative that kind of connects these all together. I know not everybody is kind of a narrative junkie like I am, but that was one of the things that I really loved about G.I. Joe growing up, was just the file cards and the stories in the comics, and being able to connect all of these characters to each other through the mythology that I feel like has been pretty disconnected in recent years. You know, whatever comics did come out didn't really reference the toy line going on at the time. You know, you really didn't have a feel for what story was being told, and I think that's kind of a missed opportunity that I hope maybe gets revisited at some point.
Your new nickname on the show is going to be Justin Narrative Junkie Bell. And because the immediate image
I do write for a living, so
the immediate image I had of you was injecting a book into your veins on a bed sit on a mattress.
No, the key is I want to write that book. So Lenny, if you're, let me know. Tell Chris he can get you in touch with me.
Just mention these will be darker blue. Is that a definite thing, or is that?
I don't know. I mean, it says it's a digital render, and they may change. It looks darker to me, but it may not be. Yeah. It may just be the contrast. So yeah, they did not specify that for sure. That's just kind of my wild hyperbole, which may be misplaced.
Just to back up what you just said there, Justin, Hooded Cobra Commander 788 says, I think narrative is what is missing in the classified series. Obviously, it's been doing fine without it, but it would be a nice bonus.
Absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah,
Shout out to HCC 788 there as well. I just want to highlight a few comments while we're here. S. Myers says, hello, gentlemen and chat. What an exciting set of reveals. Stalker looks fantastic. Just off that, guys, what was your highlight of the show, starting with Adam?
Honestly, I kind of want to say maybe the Cobra Commander and Duke ORing 2-pack. I mean, it's repetitive, I know, but this is a really loaded thing for me because I don't want to sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my face about stuff that we already have. The best figure reveals were Xamot and Tomax and Gung-Ho. The one that I'm personally most excited about probably is that O-Ring 2-pack.
Okay, that's cool. You're totally allowed that opinion. You're wrong.
No, he's not.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah, exactly. He's wrong, but no, that's awesome, man. What about you, Pat? What are your thoughts, and what's the kind of highlight for you?
Same exact thing. I'm eager to get those O-Ring figures in hand. Shout out to Philip, by the way, who's on break, but he's here. I'm excited to get those O-Ring figures in hand, but I think that it was Slaughterhouse earlier in the comments mentioned that he's curious about what size the foot pegs will be, and I'm curious about those backpacks. Not every vintage figure, the backpacks didn't always fit very well from one figure to the next, but the foot pegs really need to be standardized. So I'm kind of curious to see how they will handle those. I'm eager to get that first set in hand, and I don't know about anybody else, but I actually think that Hasbro Pulse did say that they're shipping Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow
earlier than
I got an email.
Earlier than expected. We're kind of not really used to that in these times, are we? Usually it's we'll keep pushing it, and then cancel. But now it's we're a month early, so here you go, which is incredible. So yeah, the Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow are coming very soon for people. I know a lot of people have been getting emails. I've had multiple messages of people saying, "Oh, I got the email. Have you seen this?" Yes, I have, for the 900th time. No, I will actually also say I appreciate it when people send me stuff, because it has been almost impossible to keep up with G.I. Joe this year and last year. It has been really difficult. So I appreciate everybody who has sent me stuff, who has sent me news, even if I'm in the middle of the burst as they send it to me. I do appreciate it. So thank you, guys. Keep that up. Right, yeah, okay, cool. Well, thanks to sorry, Justin, what was your highlight? Was we
I thought you were kicking me off.
No, I'm not finishing just yet. Go on.
No, I think Stalker is definitely the highlight for me. The Tomax and Xamot figures look fantastic. I like the newness that Stalker brings to the table. And I really like Pat's point about how they're doing the original 13, but doing it in varied ways that really kind of triggered something in my head, made me really excited to see maybe what they might do for Flash, Grand Slam, some characters like that. They are injecting some newness. They even did it with Breaker when he came, coming with a Ram. He didn't look straight up like his vintage version. They're kind of injecting some of that new style. So yeah, already having Stalker and Snake Eyes and Breaker and Scarlet all from that original lineup already. I'm excited to kind of watch that develop, and the way they've approached Stalker is almost perfect in my mind. I mean, the vintage inspired deco was there, but it's got a lot of newness too, and the head sculpt is absolutely fantastic. I think they could do some really great things with the accessories, and Stalker is definitely the star of the show for me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with the Stalker thing. I think when I saw Stalker, I was what? Stalker and Gung-Ho were the ones that kind of stood out to me as wow. And again, you're talking a lot of new parts and a lot of new paint. So for me, it's get me with the shiny stuff, and it's in your hand. I want it. So yeah, that's pretty much all the reveals that we had for today. Guys, thanks for jumping on. Just before we end, I just want to see if any other comments, any questions, guys, in the comments. You want to ask us anything before we go? And I'll pop it up on screen, and we'll answer to best of our ability. A lot of people kind of talking about Stalker they liked. What did you like, actually? That would be good to hear as well. As that stuff's coming through, if it is, we've got a lot of people watching, which is amazing. Thank you guys so much for jumping on. Really appreciate it. Crimson Twins are the highlight, says Craig Wagner. Again, like that was, I mean, I must admit that the Twins, even though I knew it was coming, I knew the reveal was coming, and we had that leaked a long time ago, I was really impressed with what they look like render-wise, so I'm excited. And also something I didn't mention before, you guys might have done, I might not have heard you because I was too busy crying at the time, but 2 different head sculpts, which is great. You know, like a little smirk on, is it a smirk on Tomax, and like a, and like the, you know, a slightly different kind of facial feature for Zaymot. Obviously the scar is obviously going to be a different head sculpt, obviously, and obviously they have to be mirror images of each other. But it's nice that they did, rather than do like the same face but flip round with a scar on it. It's nice that we've got a little bit more differentiation in that. So I was quite into that. What do you guys think about that?
Love it.
Yeah, I appreciate any of that. I mean, especially in an era now where it would be very easy to just make the same figure and give it a reversible secondary sash and call it a day. The fact that they actually went above and beyond to sculpt differences in the 2 figures is really appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric Clark has said, any concern about the retro packaging? Any concerns people have, or do you think it's going to be cool? Do you think it's going to be interesting enough to grab us? Obviously, it's going to grab us, isn't it? Let's face it.
Just to clarify, ORing, you mean not the retro card 6-inch stuff?
I was assuming the retro card backs, but Eric, if you could just confirm whether you're talking O-ring or not, that would be
because if we're talking O-ring, funny enough, we don't really know. You know, the first 2 figures come with that vinyl carry case. The next few come with the Sky Striker, and we're not really sure what that's going to look like yet. And this wasn't really clarified. Like, obviously, some of them are a 2-pack, so they're probably not going to come on a card. So that will be interesting. I hadn't really put a lot of thought into it, to be honest.
I think they'll be carded. I think, like, you know how Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes have been shown as carded figures together in a vinyl case.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to have. They can't keep bringing out vinyl cases for every 2-pack, can they? We're going to have like 600 vinyl cases, aren't we? Basically, by the end of it.
As long as they're numbered, that's all Adam cares.
That's all I care.
Final case 33.
Yeah. The ecstasy of order, numbers, colors, you know.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was the opposite. I was actually kind of bothered when I was putting all the standard size packages next to each other, and it skips numbers because the odd ones are included. I almost would rather just have only the standard boxes have the numbers, and everything else, no number.
That makes sense.
Yeah, Eric did put in a clarification. He was talking about the 6-inch retro line.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
No concerns there. I think that they're going to be awesome. I mean, if you look at what they've done with Marvel and Star Wars, I think the packaging is always really cool, and also very thick card backs.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the thing with a lot of 4-inch figures in recent years. They're so flimsy that the bubble would fall off. But in these, the bubble is actually wedged between the 2 pieces of cardboard that are then glued together. So, I mean, it's like, you know, stiff as a board. So I think that the packaging is probably going to be awesome on those.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I would say the same thing, yeah.
Just highlighting his comment. Sorry. Hi, Mom. Love you very much.
You'll be in trouble if you don't show her comment.
Mom's absolutely right, though. Another great podcast.
Mom's always know best, right?
I'm always going to highlight my mom's comments. So if you don't like it, you know where the door is. Yeah. Love you, Mum. Right. Yeah, like someone else has also said here, Tomax Target exclusive, Zaymot Walmart exclusive. No. That would be hideous, wouldn't it? No, it's these are both standard releases. So
they're going to have 5 Tomaxes per case and 1 Zaymot per case.
Yeah.
Good shout. Mike Power says, I was surprised that we didn't see Crimson Guards today, but I know they're coming. I think everyone does. To be honest. Sure. We've still got Crimson Guards Zarana. I didn't know it was you. We've got.
You didn't come with the film earring, by the way. I'm gonna be so disappointed.
That's what it needs. It needs the camera. The camera in my earring.
Oh, and the Heather disguise, the accessories.
Oh man, you just want the bikini.
Well, yeah. I want it for myself. So Renegade Biker says 24 says, I wonder if they are going to put up the pre-orders or are they trying to fool the scalpers? I can tell you now, no pre-orders today. They're going to all be in the future. We don't know when, but they said at a later date. So this was all really just a reveal show. And so no pre-orders, and I don't even think Walmart have put theirs up either, which is what we are fully expecting with those retro card backs based on information that we have obtained.
I wonder if doing this today is getting a jump on Toy Fair, or if when that comes around, we'll still get more stuff.
Well,
they mentioned near the end of the stream that I think they said something about late February, they're doing a 40th anniversary kind of special thing. Okay. I don't know if that's in conjunction with, in addition to Toy Fair, or if that's going to replace Toy Fair, but I think it sounds like there's another big event happening next month.
It'll just be accessory reveals, no figures.
Accessory renders.
They're not even going to tell you who goes with what. They're just going to throw a pile of weapons on the desk and just, yeah.
X Factors 17 says, so I guess we can expect a straight repack of Storm Shadow for the retro classified line. I really wish Baroness was an actual retro line and not classified repaints. I think we can expect a lot of these figures to be on retro card back. Yeah, so we're gonna get pretty much everything that has been revealed, that's been released so far. You're probably going to get slightly redecoed. I wonder what Storm Shadow is going to be. I'm like, this is what I want to see for a Storm Shadow retro card back. Keep the hood, change the arms, right, slightly, deco in the digital camo, and give us our version 2 with that gorgeous artwork. Oh,
it'd be nice.
Yeah, I would be all up in that. In fact, while we are here, Adam, take me through, what would you want to see on a retro card? What kind of figure that has been released would you like to see them do differently?
Man. That's tough. I mean, if we can, do the retro cards have to stay explosion back, or can we jump eras? Because maybe
go on, do it. You know I want to hear it.
Viper or something maybe would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay.
That'd be dope. Because that's the thing, the retro card back doesn't have to, I mean, as Marvel have proven, doesn't have to be the one style, does it? There's so many. That's the thing with G.I. Joe. How many different card backs have we had? We've had Sonic Fighters, we've had Tiger Force, we've had Supersonic Fighters, we've Battle Corps, we've had all sorts, haven't we? So like a Ninja Force. There you go. Ninja Force. You want to see a Snake Eyes Ninja Force?
I mean, of course, if they, I feel like they don't have any love for me. I've only brought this up on every podcast for the last 5 years. So
they don't watch this. They do. Brian Greenwood says, do you think we'll get Dreadnoks at some point? Yes, Brian. Oh, yeah. Effectively, I'm just, how can we not? And I'm sure that'll be a wave at some point where you've got Buzzer, Ripper, or Torch or something.
I mean, they did Crocmaster. I would think, Dreadnoks are a no-brainer.
The Zartan. Zarana!
I'd like to get started on those soon. I don't want too much parts reuse among my Dreadnoks. I like those to be somewhat unique because that seems to be their thing. They're not uniform. That's the appeal of the Dreadnoks. So I would like them to get started on the Dreadnoks soon myself.
Yeah.
So you don't want a whole wave of the Dreadhead cousins with 6 figures all on the same time?
Yeah. Billy Bob, Bobby Bill. I can't remember all the names.
Cletus was one, I think.
Oh, goodness me. Why does that exist? Anyway, I'm just having a quick rinse through some of these comments, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for getting your comments in, getting your questions in. We really appreciate it. Toy Cartel says, I need Shipwreck soon. Also, I love the MF Doom avatar you've got. Amazing. But yeah, I need Shipwreck soon as well. There's one that I can see definitely in Super 7 soon.
Oh yeah.
Not necessarily in I could see it in classified, but how do you think they would approach Shipwreck? Do you think they'd do him as the sailor now? Because we are going very vintage. Or do you think they'd maybe look at one of his other releases where he was kind of like in the wetsuit and stuff like that?
It's got to be the sailor. Well, go ahead.
Version 1, yeah. I mean, I would love. I personally would love the '94 Shipwreck, so I could have a 6-inch Stinky Diver figure for you actually. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we just get a version 1.
What about the Devil's Due sweater cap look?
I love that one too. Yeah, I would love to see that.
Good shout. I suppose they could do like the Dollar General style, right?
Yeah, that's essentially
basically it, isn't it? Yeah. I'm up for that. I'm down. Anyway, okay, we're that's it. We are done, guys. Thank you so much for jumping on, everybody. Thank you for your chats, your comments, all that kind of stuff. We really appreciate and it's all been really great, positive, loving all the comments. It's been brilliant. So thank you so much for joining us. Apologies for the initial breakdown. That just what happens on our show on a regular basis.
Backgrounds fall down, streams kick off. We run a tight ship.
Exactly. This is a professional setup.
But then Chris's mom comes in and makes us all feel better.
Okay. So thank you, Mom. Thanks to everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. Sorry if I didn't get to all of your comments and stuff. There are a lot of them. But we, again, like I said, we really appreciate all of the support and everything. So thank you. We've got a weekly coming up tomorrow, which Pat and I will be recording momentarily. And we've got a lot to talk about, Pat. Oh my goodness, it is really kicked off this week and the last 2 days as well, which is annoying. I look at it sometimes and think, the weekly's going to be nice and relaxed, and we can just talk about a couple. Bang, 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 and they're all really like important things as well. So thanks, G.I. Joe. Anyway, had a great time. Really enjoyed. Thanks to Hasbro for the stream. Lenny and Emily, big shout out to you guys for putting on a great show. And also one last thing. Love you, Mom.
One for each of us. How sweet.
And Dad as well, if you're there. So love you guys and everybody. So yeah, big shout out to everyone. Thank you to my awesome co-hosts, to Adam Mercenary Riches, to Justin Generals Joes Bell, and to Patrick Notpicard Stewart. This has been the Full Force, and this has been us. I'm going to slowly remove everyone, really embarrassingly, like so. Right. I will be, like I said, we'll be back tomorrow with the weekly. That's it from us. Have a great day, and I'll just leave you now with the outro. Peace out.
That's it for this instalment of the Full Force News Burst. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe. See you next time, and as always, Full Force. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @TheFullForce, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/TheFullForce, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback and questions. We also have a Patreon page, so if you want to show your support for the show, see your name up in lights on these videos, or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/TheFullForce podcast, or click on the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.